right, welcome back to American Sunrise. I'm Dr. G. Thanks for joining us this morning. We invite you to hop in our conversation on Getter and Rumble. It is time now to take the political pulse of America. The beat today, President Trump's current approval rating and popularity higher now than his first term in the White House. According to RealClearPolitics, polling average Trump's approval rating in this first year of his second term is just under 46%. That's about a 6-point jump from how America viewed the president during the first year of his first term. And while in office, President Trump continued to win over voters year after year. When we look at his approval ratings in 2017 and 2018 and 2019, there's about a 1% increase each year. And when we compare that to President Biden's term in office, it's the exact opposite, pretty much. His approval rating sank year over year, with Biden leaving the White House with just 40% of public approval. That was basically his staff. Womp womp. All right, let's bring in David and T for some discussion. You guys, this is no surprise because when you work hard and you prove yourself and you do it, more people are naturally going to wake up to the fact that, hey, at least this guy's in there working hard. He's making a difference. He's keeping his promises. You know, it's easy to say, oh, well, President Trump didn't do this or hasn't done that or hasn't. But look what he has done. It's impossible not to recognize so many promises made, promises kept. David Brody.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, did I call you ma'am? Yes, Gina, you're right, Dr. G. Here's the thing. First, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, people want to feel safe. They want to make sure you have a president that is not just working for them, but working to protect them. And I think that's very important here. And that's why Democrats are always on the wrong side of these arguments and why their numbers continue to crater. Speaking of cratering, how about Biden's numbers? It's like him on a bicycle. Crash, boom.
Yeah,
really bad. So I think that's what's driving a lot of this. Also, let's remember, even though his approval rating's 46%, okay, ... asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. These polls are skewed. They're typically more Democrats than Republican, number one, in these polls. And number two, the way these questions are phrased, as I look in the methodology of these polls, Trump never gets a fair shot at all.
I've never been polled. Have you ever been polled, either of you?
Never. They don't want to poll me. They don't want to poll me. No. So you know, I take all of the poll numbers with a grain of salt. In other words, I think they're much higher, obviously, than what these even are. But even with these poll numbers, even with all the asterisks, T-Bates, doesn't matter. Trump's numbers are up because people, like I said, want to feel safe. And I think that is what's driving a lot of this. The problem is with the liberal media, it's such an echo chamber. And, you know, they talk to 14%, represent 14 to 15% of Americans. And maybe I'm high on that.
You're right.
But when they do that, it skews the way they cover stories and what they want the conversation to be.
And you know what? Poll numbers are one thing, but perception is a completely different thing. And I think that's much more real. And the perception on the streets, if you go anywhere really and talk to people, is that they understand what's happening in this country right now. They understand what President Trump is doing. They know what his goals are. He's continuing to assert what he wants to do and how he's going to do it. And he's being very transparent. That in and of itself creates a sense of safety for a lot of people because at least they know what's going on. And they know that the work is being done because President Trump and the administration in general are showing them every single day and talking about it. The second thing is this time around, President Trump has a cabinet that's working with him and not necessarily against him. Let's just be honest. Last time around, there were some cabinet members and there were some other officials in the administration who were trying to hamstring the president. This time, he's got cabinet members and others who are in his inner circle who are working to support him and support his vision and to support his policies. And I think all of that is very apparent to the American people. Go ahead, David.
And just one last point on that. Let's also remember Paul Ryan was Speaker of the House the first time around. He had a 46 member majority. 46. Mike Johnson has three-member majority. 46 member majority. And he was, to a degree, fighting Trump quite a bit, tooth and nail, on some of the policies. So, you know, Paul Ryan was not President Trump's biggest fan, as we all know now, but we kind of knew it then, but now we really know it. And so that was another hurdle he had to overcome.
Yeah.
That's why Mike Johnson is getting a lot more kudos and much better than Paul Ryan, for sure.
Yeah, well, we need those judiciary confirmations for one thing.
Yeah.
I want to turn our attention now to Iran, if we can. This week, Iranian officials are expected to resume talks with European Union members on nuclear issues. This comes amid threats of reactivating United Nations sanctions if Tehran continues to refuse to negotiate. These sanctions may snap back if leaders are not able to reach a deal on Iran's nuclear programs during talks this week. Let's welcome to American Sunrise the Deputy Director of the National Council of Resistance of Iran and the author of The Iran Threat. It's good to have you with us, Alireza Jafardeza. I'm sure I just said that all wrong, but you say your name for us because for some reason in English this is just so hard for us.
It's Alireza Jafarzadeh. It's always a pleasure to be on your show.
Always good to have you, even if I can't say your name. But your comments as we look down the barrel of all the things happening on the geopolitical scale, how would you grade President Trump's actions so far regarding Iran?
Well, certainly the president has, ever since he came to office, has called for ending the nuclear weapons program of the Iran regime. He's been so focused on that and very unwavering on that. And I think that also look at the first term when it came to the terrorism of the Iran regime. It was under President Trump's watch that the terror master Qasem Soleimani, who was the commander of the Quds force that carried out all the terror operations of the regime, but also their terror proxies in the region, he was eliminated. So that's the kind of policy you need to see when it comes to the Iran regime, being very unwavering in ending their nuclear threat, ending their missile program, ending their drone program, ending their terror operations, but also ending the killing of their own people inside Iran.
So where does that leave Iran exactly? Because you've got Iran's Khamenei basically calling the U.S. issue unsolvable amid this nuclear standoff. Where do you think talks go from here? Because they are basically, let's be honest, they're pretty much neutered at this point.
Well, the Ayatollahs ruling Iran are the masters of demagoguery, lying, dragging, and playing games with the outside world. Unfortunately, if you look at the history of the nuclear weapons program of the regime has managed to move their program forward while making promises and playing games with the outside world. And unfortunately, the outside world, particularly the Europeans, were involved in appeasement policy, which allowed the regime to expand their nuclear weapons program, but also to get away with their terrorism. All of that needs to end right now. We have a deadline coming. The ability to trigger back UN sanctions on the Iran regime will expire in a few weeks, actually October 18th. And you need to have at least 40 days before that to trigger that mechanism. And that's only a few days left. So that's why the clock is running. And that's why it's so important for both the United States, but also its European partners, to keep the focus on putting the sanctions back on the Iran regime, because this is, if you lose this opportunity, Tehran will win.
To your point, Iran has continued to say the right thing in public, but do nothing in private. So what can the United States and its European partners be doing now, even in advance of the deadline that you just mentioned, to put more pressure on Iran to do something? Can the United States and its partners potentially make some sort of sanctions or do some sort of economic pushes that would force Iran to either get on the ship or jump off board?
Well, you know, all they really need to do is to understand their ability. They have all the power in the world to snap back the sanctions on the Iran regime. The only thing the regime can do is to lure and to beguile the Western nations. That's what you want to avoid. You know, they can easily snap back sanctions, and no matter what China and Russia want to do, that snapback will go into effect. This is the one-time opportunity, but also understand the weakness of the Iran regime. This regime is so vulnerable. They have lost all of their proxies in the region. Inside Iran, the people are vehemently opposed to it. Just come within 10 days on September 6th, tens of thousands of Iranian people, Iranian opposition figures, and expatriates will gather in Brussels, Europe's capital, to call for ending the the rule of the Ayatollahs. They call for snapback of sanctions on the Iranian regime. They call for supporting a free Iran. That's Saturday, September 6th. I think the world needs to listen to them, because these are the people who are calling for a free Iran. They're supporting the 10-point platform of the opposition leader, Mrs. Maryam Rajavi. This is the same movement that exposed major nuclear sites of Iran, that also has support in Europe. That's where you want to focus. You want to build pressure on the regime, highlight the will of the Iranian people, which is opposite to the will of the Iranian regime, and build all the pressure on the Iran regime, and you will see the outcome. Unfortunately, people don't realize how destructive the policy of appeasement has been, and how much power and ability you actually have in confronting this regime.
Iran says it will use more advanced missiles if Israel does attack again. What is your take on that?
Well, that's a good point you raised, Gina, in terms of the missile program of the Iran regime. The regime successfully, unfortunately, managed to move the issue of missiles out of the original agreement, the JCPOA, or the Iran nuclear deal, in 2015. Now is the time to make it very clear that not only all of the nuclear sites of Iran must be shut down, not only no enrichment or enrichment capability should be tolerated, but also the missile program of the Iran regime is part and parcel of their nuclear weapons program. They need to stop. All of their missile program and their sites must be shut down. There's no peaceful purpose. There's no defensive purposes for their missile program. It's part and parcel of a nuclear weapons program, and they operated under different covers, launching satellite into orbit. This is not launching satellite. This is part and parcel of their nuclear weapons program. So that needs to stop. This is the time to ramp up pressure on the Iran regime, rather than just giving the opportunity to negotiate their way out of things. This is the time that you got the regime on the corner, and you want to build up pressure. Don't get them off the hook, and you will see the outcome.
Ali Reza Jafarzadeh, we'll have to leave the conversation there. Thank you so much. Always good to see you.
Always a pleasure to be on your show. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back here on American Sunrise, the Justice Department releasing the transcripts from last month's interview with Ghislaine Maxwell. In moments, find out what she had to say about President Trump's relationship with Epstein and what she revealed about other world leaders. That's all coming up. And later, a 91-year-old Korean War veterans community in Ohio comes together to show their gratitude for his service and to honor his dedication to our country. That story is ahead.